Well, we've got the files here on, well, it has to be one of the most audacious fraud schemes certainly in recent British history. I mean, it's almost pathetic in the end, isn't it?
It really is a story of staggering ego, I think.
Yeah, definitely. We're tracking John Darwin, the man who basically tried to hit delete on his own life by paddling out in a kayak.
Mm. And it's this perfect storm, isn't it? You've got the financial desperation, that massive ego you mentioned, and then just sheer carelessness mixed in.
For 5 years, officially dead, his wife collects hundreds of thousands. Our sources, they detail everything right from the start in County Durham, crippling debt.
All the way to this, like, tropical dream life in Panama. It's quite the journey.
So here's what we're going to do in this deep dive. We are going to follow this ghost, essentially, figure out how on earth he hid, basically in plain sight, for so long.
Right. The mechanics of it.
Exactly. And then pinpoint how just one tiny digital slip-up, honestly, a single photo, just shattered the whole thing. After surviving searches, police suspicions, 5 years of lies.
It's an incredible story of self-sabotage, really. The details are just, well, you'll see.
Okay, so let's set the scene. We don't start with the money problems just yet. We start with the disappearance itself. It's designed to look tragic, right?
Yes.
March 2002, Seaton Carew, Northeast England.
Nice little seaside place.
Uh,
And the North Sea. It can be vicious, obviously. But this day, the sources are clear, unusually calm. Deceptively calm, you might say.
And John Darwin, he's in his early 50s then, former prison officer. He decides to go kayaking, paddles off from the shore.
And that's it. That's basically the last confirmed legitimate sighting of him for 5 whole years.
He doesn't turn up for work. That's the trigger. He's reported missing, and boom, massive search operation kicks off.
And we're talking a serious search. You mentioned the scale, 62 square miles of coastline, 160 square kilometers. They weren't messing about. This was a full-on effort to find someone they presumed had drowned.
But they find almost nothing of him.
Exactly. That's what deepens the mystery straight away. All they get is a double-ended paddle washed up, and later some bits of wreckage confirmed as his kayak. But the man himself vanished, like the sea just swallowed him whole.
And the questions start immediately. Why was there no mayday call, no distress signal?
Right. And why would a man, presumably familiar with the sea, get into trouble on a day like that?
Yeah.
So calm, it didn't add up.
This lack of, obvious environmental factors plus no body, it created the perfect ambiguity, didn't it, for their plan?
Precisely. That ambiguity was crucial. No body meant they had to rely on the circumstantial stuff, the paddle, the wreckage, enough to persuade the authorities, look, he must have drowned.
And they managed it surprisingly quickly.
Very quickly. The death certificate gets issued. Date of death, March 21st, 2002. And that unlocks the door for the insurance fraud to begin. The speed of that really missing person to officially dead, that was the first clue this was planned. Very carefully planned.
Okay, let's get to the why, because often with these big frauds, you think it's about, I don't know, funding a lavish lifestyle from the get-go. But Darwin's motive, it seems much more basic, just trying to stay afloat, right?
Yeah, avoiding financial ruin, essentially. It helps to know a bit about him. His career path was interesting.
How so?
Well, born around 1950, 51, he starts, respectably enough, teaches science and maths for 18 years. Solid job. But a total change. Goes into banking, works for Barclays. Then another shift becomes a prison officer at HM Prison Home House.
So jumping around a bit.
Exactly. Suggests maybe someone restless or struggling to find his niche, perhaps.
And his wife, Anne, she's central to this whole thing from the start. She worked as a doctor's receptionist, but they had this side business together.
The property business, yeah.
Yeah.
Renting out bedsits in County Durham. They actually built up quite a portfolio, 12 houses at one point.
Which sounds pretty successful on the surface. Middle-class dream, almost.
Sounds it. But the reality, dangerously over-leveraged. They were relying on that rental income stream to cover some pretty hefty mortgages.
And the crunch came.
The sources pinpoint it. December 2000. They buy 2 specific houses in Seaton Carew. Those purchases, maybe bad timing, maybe they overpaid. Whatever it was, it tipped them over the edge into what the sources call crippling debt.
Crippling, so bad that by early 2002, just over a year later, he's not just worrying about bankruptcy, he's actively talking about faking his death.
Yeah, this wasn't a spur-of-the-moment thing when he got into the kayak. This was premeditated, hatched out of sheer desperation.
And the goal was purely financial survival.
Absolutely. Get that life insurance money. The target was £250,000, which, back in 2002.
Yeah.
That's a lot of money. Today, with inflation, you're looking at over £500,000 sterling. maybe 510,000 pounds.
Wow. And the immediate need.
Pay off the mortgage. They owed 130,000 pounds on their properties. That's around 270,000 pounds in today's money. So the fraud wasn't about getting rich quick initially. It was purely defensive. An escape hatch.
So, March 21st, 2002. He doesn't go to work. The plan is set in motion. He goes from being this guy drowning in debt
To being a missing person.
Yeah.
Tragic presumed drowning victim. Which triggers the search, the news reports, everything.
and Anne. She plays her part immediately.
Oh, perfectly. The grieving widow. And getting that death certificate quickly was vital. It let them start the insurance claim with UNAT Direct Insurance Management Limited almost straight away.
If the police had dragged their feet or stayed suspicious about the lack of a body,
The whole thing could have stalled. But the bits of kayak, the paddle, it was just enough evidence to get that official declaration. And that unlocked the 250,000-pound target. That was it. Point of no return.
right, this is where the story just gets, well, frankly, bizarre. You fake your death, you picture someone fleeing abroad, a new identity, hiding out somewhere remote. John Darwin, he hides next door.
It's almost comical, isn't it? The sheer audacity. Initially, yeah, he lives secretly in a bedsit they owned right next door to the family home where Anne and their sons were.
Just think about that. Separated by a wall, he could probably hear them grieving for him, talking about him.
The psychological pressure must have been immense for both of them, but especially Anne.
And then it gets even bolder. Less than a year later, February 2003. He doesn't just stay next door. He moves back in with Anne, into the main family home.
Hiding in their own house, in a locker room, sometimes apparently in a space behind a wardrobe, connected through a shared partition with the bedsit next door. How do you even manage that, day to day?
Keeping that secret inside a normal suburban house. With sons living there, it's unbelievable.
Anne's role here is just critical. She's playing the widow to the outside world, neighbors, friends, her sons, the police. But behind closed doors, she's, what, making sandwiches for her dead husband who's hiding upstairs?
Doing his laundry, the constant fear must have been crippling. A repairman calls, someone gets sick, a neighbor just pops around unexpectedly.
It required absolute discipline, total commitment from Anne to keep that lie going 24/7.
And they nearly got caught, didn't they? There's that incredible story with the tenant. This is the moment it should have all come crashing down years earlier.
Oh, yeah. One of the tenants in the bedsits they owned actually spots Darwin, recognizes him. Remember, his face had been in the papers, the drowned man.
Can you imagine seeing a ghost? What did the tenant say?
Apparently, he just asked him straight out, "Aren't you supposed to be dead?"
Wow, Darwin must have panicked.
You'd think so. But no, his response was just ice cold. He apparently just said, "Don't tell anyone about this."
And the tenant?
Just didn't. Said later he did not want to get involved. Can you believe it? That one moment of apathy, of someone just not wanting the hassle?
About another 4 years. If that tenant had gone to the police in 2003, game over right there.
Incredible. They were relying on people just looking the other way. But look, they knew they couldn't stay like that forever. Hiding in the house wasn't sustainable, especially with the insurance money coming through. They needed a way out, a new identity.
Which brings us to John Jones.
Right. To get around, to travel, potentially move abroad, Darwin needed a passport. He couldn't use his own name, obviously, so he gets one under the name John Jones.
But how did he get that identity?
This is another really grim part of the story. The police investigation eventually found out. The real John Jones was a baby. Born in Sunderland, died in 1950. He basically stole the identity of a dead infant.
That's callous.
Extremely. And even then, he messed up the application. The sources mentioned a massive mistake on the passport application for John Jones. He put his actual home address.
Seriously, the address where John Darwin supposedly lived before he died?
Yep. Talk about leaving a breadcrumb trail. Overconfidence, maybe. A basic error that directly linked the alias to his real life.
But it worked, didn't it? The passport gave him freedom to move.
It did. Gave him the mobility he needed. And by 2004, they start looking seriously at moving abroad. Cyprus is mentioned as an early possibility.
But Darwin himself starts taking more risks, traveling around, meeting people.
He does. Quite a bit for a dead man. May 2005, he's using another alias, John Williams. This time meets some random angler by a lake down in Cornwall near Penzance.
And he went further afield, too.
Yeah, flew to the U.S., met up with a woman from Kansas he'd connected with online.
What was he thinking? Meeting strangers?
It's hard to say. Maybe the isolation was getting to him. Maybe he just couldn't resist the risk, the thrill. Or maybe he needed validation, needed interaction that Anne perhaps couldn't provide while maintaining the lie. Whatever the reason, these meetings were huge, unnecessary risks.
And the travel leads to that amazing bit of irony in late 2005, Spain.
Ah, yes. November 2005. He travels via Gibraltar to El Puerto de Santa Maria in Spain. And what's he doing there? He's checking out a boat. Not just any boat.
A massive catamaran, 42 feet long, worth 45,000 pounds.
Exactly. The sheer nerve of it. The man supposedly drowned in a tiny little kayak a few years back.
And now he's planning to sail the world in a luxury yacht.
It screams ego, doesn't it? This desire for a bigger, better life directly conflicts with the absolute need for secrecy and staying underground. They were starting to create ripples internationally, even while keeping the secret lockdown back home. That tension, secrecy versus ambition, that was the ticking clock.
So after scouting Cyprus and Spain, they eventually land on Panama. By 2006, that seems to be the chosen spot for their new life.
That's right. July 2006, they traveled to Panama, looking at property, potential investments. And this trip, this is where the old-school analog fraud crashes headfirst into the digital age.
Because this is when the photo gets taken, the crucial photo.
The fatal photo, yeah. During that visit, they're looking at properties, and a local Panamanian property agent takes their picture. John and Ann smiling together.
Just standard practice, probably. Documenting the visit, maybe for a website.
Exactly. The agent wasn't doing anything malicious. They just took a photo, probably for their files or their company's website, and uploaded it to the internet.
And it just sat there, online, publicly accessible, for over a year, like a digital landmine.
A ticking time bomb, absolutely. And they seem completely oblivious. They push ahead with their Panama plans.
Yeah.
March 2007, they set up a company, Jaguar Properties, tetchy name.
And buy property.
Yep, a two-bedroom apartment in a place called El Dorado. Cost them 50,000 pounds. They were putting down roots, or so they thought.
But funding this new life that required selling up back in the UK.
Serious asset liquidation. And this is where it gets even more complicated, because their sons get drawn in, albeit unknowingly.
How?
Well, the bedsit house next door, the one where John first hid out that gets sold, but the transaction, the ownership, it's apparently transferred into the name of their son, Mark.
So he's used to facilitate the sale without knowing the context.
Seems that way. And the money from that sale funneled straight out to Panama.
Wow, that's another level of betrayal, using your kids like that.
Then the main family home, the one where John was hiding in the walls, that goes too, sold for 295,000 pounds in October 2007, once that money's clear.
And joins him in Panama, full time.
And they weren't thinking small. They didn't just settle for the apartment. By May 2007, they'd already bought a big tropical estate near the Panama Canal in a place called Escobal. Cost 200,000 pounds.
This is where the canoe story comes in, right? The media loved that angle.
Oh, absolutely. The papers ran with the idea they were planning to set up a canoe rental business there. The irony was just too perfect. The canoe man back with canoes in Panama.
Did they actually plan that?
Darwin later claimed the media made that bit up, just played on the name. But whether it was true or not, the narrative stuck, because it highlighted the sheer transformation from debt-ridden couple in rainy England to seemingly wealthy estate owners in tropical Panama.
Meanwhile, back in the UK, the police aren't just sitting idle. They're starting to piece things together even before the photo surfaces.
They were getting suspicious, definitely. The formal investigation really kicks into gear in September 2007.
Yeah.
And the trigger, a tip-off. A colleague of Ann's. Apparently, she overheard a phone call between Ann and John. Something about it just didn't sound right, raised suspicion. That gave the police enough grounds to really start digging deeper, surveillance and so on.
But they already had reasons to be wary of Anne, didn't they? Her behavior.
Oh, yes. For a grieving widow, she was acting strangely, taking expensive holidays abroad, making plans to sell the family home. And crucially, financial investigators spotted large sums of money moving out of the country, heading towards Panama. Big red flags.
And they found physical proof he'd been back in the house, too.
Crucial evidence. When they searched the properties later, investigators found old newspapers dated February 2007. Where were they? Stuffed in that hidden, boarded-up space between the main house and the bedsit next door.
Proof positive. He was living there long after he supposedly drowned. Undeniable.
Absolutely irrefutable proof he'd been physically present, hiding there, for almost the entire 5 years.
So the net is tightening. But what actually makes Darwin leave Panama and walk into a police station in London? Surely not a guilty conscience.
Not a chance. It was cold, hard bureaucracy that forced his hand. Panama changed its visa laws.
How did that affect him?
They brought in a new requirement for anyone applying for an investor's visa. You needed verification from the UK police, a background check, basically.
And Darwin, living as John Jones,
Knew that alias wouldn't survive scrutiny, A proper police check would expose John Jones as either non-existent or worse, linked to the deceased baby. He was trapped. Face exposure and deportation in Panama, or try to manage the situation back in the UK.
So he chose to come back.
Bought a plane ticket, flew back on November 30th, 2007, his cover story for returning. Almost laughable. He said he was missing his sons.
After putting them through 5 years of hell.
Right.
And then the big finale, December 1st, 2007. He strolls into West End Central Police Station in London, and the story he gives.
Amnesia. Total blank for the last 5 years. Complete memory loss. Couldn't remember a thing since 2002, and Anne, who had flown back separately, rushes to his side, playing the part perfectly. Surprise, joy, elation, fully backing up the ridiculous amnesia story. It was pure theater.
The Amnesia Act, I mean, it was bold, but it barely lasted, what, a few days?
This next part is just, it's the stuff of modern legend, isn't it? How the whole thing collapsed.
It's almost unbelievable. 5 years of intricate lies, hiding, moving money across continents, all undone by a picture. A simple, publicly available photograph online.
It really shows the shift, doesn't it? From a world where you could physically hide to a world where your digital footprint follows you everywhere.
Absolutely. The analog deception met the digital reality check. And it wasn't even the police or sophisticated investigators who found it initially. It was a member of the public.
Just mess around on Google.
Apparently so. Just typed in a few keywords into Google Images. Simple ones.
What were they? Do we know?
The reports say it was just John, Anne, and Panama. That's it.
And up popped the photo, the one taken by the Panamanian property agent back in 2006. John and Anne smiling, looking happy, clearly together in Panama. On the agent's website, movetopanama.com.
Wow. The speed of that collapse after 5 years is just staggering. They could fool the authorities, the insurance companies, even their own kids, but not Google Images and a random internet user.
Nope. The digital ghost came back to haunt them. The picture was inevitably picked up by the press. The Daily Mirror published it. Game over.
And the police, who were already suspicious of Anne.
They immediately confronted her with the photo. The evidence was undeniable.
And her reaction.
The facade just completely crumbled. She admitted it was John. And the line attributed to her is just devastating. It really sums up the human cost.
Yeah.
Yes, that's him. My sons will never forgive me.
She knew. Instantly. The personal damage was irreparable.
That was the nail in the coffin for the whole scheme. Darwin was arrested very quickly after that at his son Anthony's house down in Basingstoke. The amnesia story vanished as quickly as it appeared.
Replaced by the cold, hard facts. The fake passport, the money trail, the newspapers in the wall cavity, and now photographic proof.
And the impact on their sons.
Yeah.
Just dreadful. Imagine the roller coaster. Grieving your dad, thinking he's dead for 5 years. Then this miracle return, but with amnesia. Then, days later, finding out it was all a calculated lie by both parents.
They must have felt utterly betrayed.
Completely.
Oh.
They issued a joint statement pretty quickly. So they initially felt, joy at his return, but then realized they were just victims in this elaborate scam. They wanted nothing more to do with either parent. Cut off all contact.
It wasn't just financial fraud, was it? It was emotional cruelty on a massive scale.
Deeply cruel. And, the public reaction was huge. One source we looked at even used this slightly over-the-top language, saying the whole thing, this Jinchan Tuok, the golden cicada shedding its shell act.
Playing dead and escaping.
Yeah. That it shocked intelligence agencies like MI6 and the CIA. Now, obviously, MI6 probably weren't losing sleep over an insurance scam in County Durham. But that hyperbole captures the mood, right? The sheer disbelief that an ordinary couple could pull this off for so long, and the shock at how it unraveled so fast thanks to the internet.
It perfectly highlights that contrast. The old ways of investigation, the physical search, the insurance checks they failed. The new way, a quick online search succeeded instantly. So, with the lies exposed, the story moves to the courts. And the charges against John and Anne Darwin, well, they reflected the complexity and duration of the fraud, didn't they?
Oh, definitely. It wasn't just one charge of faking his death. It was a whole raft of deception charges spanning those 5 years and involving multiple institutions they defrauded.
John pleaded guilty to quite a few.
He admitted 7 charges of obtaining money by deception, plus the passport offense using the dead baby's identity for the John Jones passport.
And Anne was arrested too.
Yep, the day after John, actually. Picked up at Manchester Airport when she flew back into the UK. Initially, she faced some separate charges, but ultimately the main charges reflected their joint enterprise. It was a conspiracy.
And they targeted everything they could, financially speaking.
Pretty much anything linked to his death. The big ones were the life insurance payouts, of course, that £25,000 initial sum, then the larger £137,000.
But also pensions.
Yes, his teacher's pension. They got 2 payments from that scheme, totaling over £83,000 combined. And even smaller amounts, they defrauded the Department for Work and pensions out-of-state benefits linked to his death, something over £4,000.
They really tried to milk every penny from his supposed demise.
It was comprehensive. A systematic draining of accounts based on the lie.
Okay, let's talk sentencing. July 2008, John Darwin gets 6 years and 3 months. Anne gets 6 years and 6 months. Slightly longer for her. Why was that?
It's a small difference, but it speaks volumes about how the court saw their roles. The police, and it seems the judge agreed, viewed Anne as absolutely pivotal in maintaining the deception over the long term.
Right. John did the disappearing act, but she had to live the lie day in, day out.
Exactly. She was the one interacting with people, with the authorities, and most significantly, lying directly to their sons for 5 solid years. The police called her a compulsive liar in their reports. That element of sustained personal betrayal, especially towards her children, likely tipped the scales slightly against her in sentencing.
That makes sense. His crime was the initial act and the planning. Hers was the ongoing performance.
And while he was hidden away or abroad, she was the public face of the fraud. They both appealed their sentences, by the way, in March 2009.
Let me guess. Dismissed.
Promptly dismissed.
Yeah.
No grounds.
But prison wasn't the end of it, was it? There was the money. The authorities wanted that back.
Absolutely. The Crown Prosecution Service, CPS, went after them hard. They described the fraud as callous and calculated and were determined to confiscate every penny they'd gained. This wasn't just about punishment. It was about ensuring crime didn't pay.
And since Anne had handled a lot of the money, moved it, bought the properties in Panama, she was the main target for recovery.
Her name was on the assets, yes. So the confiscation order primarily focused on her holdings, which involved the complexity of tracking and seizing assets held overseas in Panama. Not always easy.
But they managed it.
Remarkably successful. Often, recovering money hidden abroad is really tough. But by February 2012, the CPS announced they'd got back the full amount Anne had received from the life insurance and pension schemes. Every bit of it.
How much was that again?
£501,641.39.
A huge sum. And how did they get it? Selling the Panamanian dream?
Primarily, yes. They seized and sold the properties in Panama, that £50,000 apartment in El Dorado and the £200,000 estate near the canal. It showed that even though they'd tried to wash the money through foreign property, the financial trail was clear enough for the authorities to follow and reclaim it.
So financially, the grand scheme was a total bust.
Completely pointless in the end. They went through all that, served prison time, destroyed their family relationships for nothing. By July 2015, the final figures were confirmed. The pair had repaid a total of £541,762.39, including interest and costs.
Wow. Every single penny recovered.
Every penny. A stark lesson, really.
Yeah.
All that planning, all that risk, all that deceit resulted in zero profit, just jail time and ruined lives. The futility of it is quite something.
So when you look back at the whole story, from that calm sea morning to the prison cell, it really boils down to risk, doesn't it? They managed the old school risks pretty well. The faked drowning, hiding next door.
They nailed the analog part, you could say. The physical deception, manipulating the initial processes like the death certificate. They were good at that.
But they completely whiffed on the digital side. They just didn't seem to grasp the implications of the internet age.
That's the real legacy here, I think. The Canoe Man story marks a transition point.
Yeah.
Their plan belonged to an earlier era, a time before ubiquitous online presence, before everything left a digital trail. They thought distance and physical hiding still worked.
And then came Google Images.
And that one photo, posted innocuously by a property agent, that single passive piece of digital information floating online, it completely negated 5 years of careful physical deception. That digital footprint was their undoing.
Just sitting there on movetopanama.com, waiting.
It really makes you think, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And this is maybe the key takeaway for you, the listener. Think about how feasible this whole thing was. Because it started in 2002, before social media was massive, before smartphones tracked everything, before Google indexed literally everything.
Could they even get away with the first step today, faking the death certificate so easily?
It would be much harder. But more than that, could they stay hidden? Could they create that John Jones identity and travel internationally without triggering alarms? Biometric passports, linked databases, facial recognition.
Would that Panamanian agent even post a photo online today without explicit consent forms, data protection worries?
Probably not in the same casual way. And would background checks for visas, property purchases, bank accounts, wouldn't they immediately flag an anomaly with a name like John Jones linked to a deceased person? The level of cross-border information sharing and digital scrutiny is just
Yeah.
leagues beyond what it was in 2002.
So the canoe man caper? Maybe it was only possible then.
It feels like the end of an era for that specific type of fraud, yes. The low-tech, high-stakes physical disappearance. The world is just too connected now, too digitally transparent. It's a powerful reminder, isn't it? In today's world, almost nothing you do is truly invisible if it leaves even the faintest digital trace.